Hello viewers, welcome to Civic Space TV. This is Women Rise. I'm called Madreen and it is the end of March. Yes, we are completing March and still celebrating us, the women. So today in studio we have Her Excellence, I must say. Yes, Annie. She is Annie Adikin, the female president, the president Makerere Law Society, and in the past 24 years, she is the first female president of Makerere Law Society. So, Your Excellency, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that very nice introduction.
Yes. So Annie is here to share with us her story and then tell us how she was able to go through and then her experience with you, the fellow ladies. Welcome to the show and the floor is yours. Introduce yourself to our viewers.
Thank you so much, Madreen. Once again, my name is Annie Adikin and I'm the president, Makerere Law Society. It's a pleasure to be here. Wow. You want me to introduce myself briefly?
Yes.
A thing or two? Okay. I would describe myself as a smart, driven, and passionate young woman. Wow. Yeah, who is on her path of becoming a lawyer. Wow. Yes.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And so, Annie, you will take us through maybe your experiences, those moments that you cannot forget, crazy ones, nice ones. Okay. Yes. When you're growing up.
Oh, okay. Growing up, I think I've always been a cheerful child, and I've been a go-getter at least. Yeah, I've always been a go-getter. And I think my leadership journey started in high school. Okay, so I was a leader in various capacities, like class prefect in primary, but I think it was high school, a defining moment for me when I stood for speaker in Mount St. Mary's College, Namagonga. Okay. Yeah, the equivalent of deputy head prefect in my A-level.
Okay, yeah. So it's not a coincidence you're the president now.
Yes, like I've been cultivating these things from well back, the skills and managing people, engaging with people. Yeah.
Right,
yes.
Right. And tell us your experience, female president in the last 24 years.
Okay.
How is your experience so far?
So far, yes, the first 2 weeks in office have been, they've been tight.
Okay.
Already
tight.
Yes, I've gotten to understand that this is not a small office, and I must, measure up in a way. How does it feel to be the first female president in the last 24 years? Maybe I would just take you a bit in what were some of my motivations standing. Yes, so I'm a third-year law student.
All right.
And conventionally, it's usually second years who go for this position. So why did I go in my third year? I had served the Makerere Law Society in various capacities. I've served as the deputy editor-in-chief of the Makerere Law Journal. It's a 50-year-old publication at the School of Law. I've also served on the Students' Guild, the 88th Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs as a commissioner. And we have the Makerere Moot Society. I served there as a training partner. So I felt like all these experiences that I had gotten, serving in different capacities at Makerere Law School, going for president would be like the cherry on top. I'd be able to pour this experience I've garnered from everywhere into this office and serve the society better. I felt like our society needed to go to another level, and with the experience I'd garnered, I felt like this would be a very good opportunity to serve my society. Yes.
And to those that are aspiring to take on leadership,
yes,
how does it feel, the struggle that you go through, and tell us, how was it going through? How did you make it through?
Making it through, the one thing that stood out for me is that there's some journeys you can't take alone. Right, that you may be the smartest person or the most hardworking person, but there are some things you can't do alone, and it was really the support of my friends, people who believe in you, they see something in you and they're willing to push through for you. And also the support from the Makerere Law Society, looking at the election results and seeing we were 3 candidates and seeing I took over 50% of the votes. I think that also shows how much the society believes in you. So it was very empowering for me that you know, you have a big job ahead, and people expect you to deliver this competence you've been speaking out. It has to materialize in some way. You must serve other people. So the advice you also asked about, the advice I would give to someone, like let's say a little girl who is that, oh, this looks so big, how can I go for it? I would say that it's a step by step. Yeah, you don't take giant strides. I was very emphatic about the different positions I've served at the Makerere School of Law, and I would say that all these have sort of helped me grow. I remember just joining the Makerere Law Journal as just an editor. I didn't know anything, and the editor-in-chief then, Miss Colette Awano, she's at LDC now in Barra, she helped me grow into that role, and it helped me seeing someone in a position of leadership. She was the editor-in-chief, and you know how she's managing, and you know she takes you under her wing. You see how she talks to people. How do you get work done? How do you balance your academics with these commitments? And so from editor, then I moved to deputy editor-in-chief, and then you take on something. So also learning from people who have been there, people who are able to hold your hand, identifying mentors. It's a very, very important thing. I found mentorship to be very important, both on the horizontal level and vertical level. And by vertical, I'm talking about like your lecturers, your female lecturers. I've had lecturers who have been very helpful to me. I would say Dr. Diana Humuz, Dr. Carolina Dot, and Dr. Atim Patricia. They've really helped me grow into the person I would say I am today. They've given me the exposure, or let's say there's a research project, they'll come with me, or come with me to this conference. And in such spaces, you're exposed to people, or you're exposed to women, like lawyers doing big things, women lawyers doing big things. You're like, I want to be like that. I think I can be like that, and you know, challenging stereotypes here and there. Yes.
Wow. We are really hoping you do great. So a new office, yes, and so people have been there.
Yeah.
Yes. What special thing are you going to do while you're in office, and how are you going to keep relevant? Yeah.
Yes. I started off by mentioning again like the different positions I've served in terms of leadership at the Makerere School of Law, and I said that these would pour into the office that I'm currently standing. So I feel like it's a question of leveraging these different institutions within the Makerere School of Law. For example, to become a holistic lawyer, you cannot escape legal writing, knowing how to write properly or how to speak properly. So legal writing, you can cultivate that through, if students have the exposure to, let's say, writing workshops. In last year, we had, the Makerere Law Journal had a writing workshop with the Human Rights Peace Center, and we had students take on mentorship, and they were being partnered, with lawyers and lecturers, and at the end of the day, they're able to publish. So you see, a student would have just, you know, not volunteered for anything. They find themselves growing, and these skills are going to help them as a lawyer in future. Then the second skill is about speaking. And I am at the Makerere School of Law. We have something called the Makerere Moot Society, and this is an autonomous body that gives law students, the opportunity to take part in moot court competitions. These are law students competitions where they talk about the law, and they argue cases as though they are in court. So it's like you're in court, but you're not in court. It's like a mock court. Yeah, so my time in office, I would want to pour into these two things these skills that are going to help the students be better prepared for life after school, in terms of their career. Because sometimes we go through university without thinking that there is life after. And then you see your colleagues who have been doing certain things, and somehow things seem to be working out for them. And let's say you were just really concentrating on your academics, which are very important, by the way. So I felt like we need to prepare the law student for life after school. So that would be the heart of my manifesto. That would be the heart of my leadership. How do we leverage mentorship? How do we bring lawyers on board? How do we bring people in practice or in legal practice on board to be able to prepare the students? Because the Makerere School of Law boasts of a very diverse and rich alumni that I think we can tap into as a society to help our students and to take the Makerere Law Society and a level higher. Yes.
Right. And you've been a leader right away from your childhood. So what are some of those qualities of a good leader that you think this has stood out for me to where you are now?
Okay. I would say managing people. And by managing people, it does not translate into controlling people, but actually understanding the people you're working with and respecting them, like being able to work with people, like you treat them as human beings, you understand their problem. Because I've had people who I've worked with, for example, on just like a class project, and because they see your work ethic, they know if I'm going through something and I communicate to Annie, she's going to understand. But at the end of the day, she's going to expect us to put out very good work. That same person would want to work with you on something else. I received a very encouraging text sometime when I decided to run for office, and I reached out to a friend. And then he told me I would work with you on absolutely anything, because I remember the experience I had working with you, you know, putting out very good quality of work, but not compromising, putting out very good quality of work, but at the same time understanding the people you're working with. So I think it's people skills, those soft things that we take for granted, being kind to people. You have no business. Why are you stepping on people, or why are you acting like you're better than people? By the time someone made it to Makerere School of Law, we are there by merit and we are the same. So treat people well. And these are the same people who are strongly behind me during my campaign, in that I did not have to get even 100 shillings and say, here, campaign for me. But they just did it out of their own will. So I think it really boils down to how you treat people, and also the brand. We don't take this very seriously, but from the time I would say you enter university, you're actually building a brand. What are some of the things that people associate with you? Can I say that if I give Madreen this work that I know, I can go and sleep and Madreen will put out the best work possible? So I think just from the little things, like how do you put into your coursework assignment, in that the lecturer knows if we are giving group work, and his group is going to be the best at least. Or if we're working with people, who is going to get the job done. And I think those are some of the things that the electorate looked out for, because at the School of Law, it's a meritocracy. People should get into positions on virtue of the fact that they merit them, that they are competent in those offices, because people need to know you can deliver. So how you treat people, and then the brand, the kind of brand you're building from the time you start off. You don't just wake up one day and say, I want to be president. People will be like, where have you come from? What have you been doing? So it's little by little. Just the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, how you treat people, how you talk to people. All those things say a lot about you. Yes.
Beautiful. We hope for the best for you. And being the first female, president in the last 24 years, do you think gender should be a test of competence in political spaces?
That's a very good question, and I would say it was a glaring question throughout my campaign, because you also get to sit down. Why is it that in the last 24 years we have not had a female president? Why is it? Because no one. Women? Yeah, exactly. Where are the women? Where are the women? No one is talking about that. So I wouldn't say that was one of the things that pushed me to stand. I mentioned that it was just a desire to serve my society and see it going to the next level. But that's like, it's a glaring factor. Why haven't we had more women in these spaces? And when I declared my intentions to come for leadership in Makerere School of Law, people were like, oh, you're going for vice president. And then I questioned myself, why should it be that the highest political office I can aim for is vice president? Why not president? You know? So you can't escape that gender question when you're looking at women in political spaces. I don't see what is the correlation between being female and being competent. When I wake up in the morning, I don't first think of myself of, oh, I am Annie, I am a girl. I wake up, I say my prayers, and then I'm like, okay, now what do I have to do today? I first look at myself as a human being and my capabilities. So I think in political spaces, we need to have a shift. Some of these things, it's systemic. This inequality is systemic. You may not know you have certain biases, or you'll be like, oh, women are emotional, women will not be able to handle certain situation, or there is the ideal politician, and it's usually, you know, an alpha male, you know, in a suit and with charisma, and you're talking to people and they're like moved. But I think we should also go into questioning what are some of the things that make us associate competence with these people. Is it just a matter of presentation, and then we've all worked with such people, first impressions are very excellent. Then you work with them and you're like, okay, so this is, you know, you don't do your work, you treat people badly, you don't talk to people properly. So I think also going into, if we have a shift into interrogating what are some of the holistic things that make a person a good leader, we shall be in a better place. Gender should not be a reason why a person is a good candidate. What do they bring to the table? That should be the very first question. What do you bring to the table? And that's something I kept emphasizing throughout my campaign. Like, see how I have served the society in these different capacities. Point to me any one of these capacities where the society has entrusted me to do something and I have not delivered. Every single one of them, there is these are very results-oriented positions, and you have results. So why should we go ahead and question, like, oh, you're a girl, and yet I've, you know, the standard for women becomes way higher, in that I must be some sort of paragon of virtue even before I'm considered competent for office. And yet I don't think that same yardstick is used with the male counterparts. What matters is your presentation. If he's charismatic, he's able to talk to people, and, you know, he gives this impression of he knows what he's talking about. There is very little interrogation that goes. People are going to, what does she do in her free time? How does she spend her free time? What have been her achievements? Has she been in any compromising situation yet? Do we ask those same questions to men? And yet when you try to stand up for yourself and say, no, look at me for my merit. Don't look at me because of anything else. So people will, and you'll be shocked. I was also shocked during the election period, in that people are very petty. I remember this particular incident. I met, so I was trying to look for votes. We were at law school. So I met this gentleman. Oh, you notice I have a dimple. So I met this gentleman. I was like, yes, hello, my name is Annie Adikin, and I'm coming for president, Makerere Law Society. And then, so he was really writing in his book. He wasn't really listening. Then I got, like, of course, my poster. Then I gave it to him. And then he's like, oh, okay, you look nice. So I have a dimple. Yeah, thank your mother for your face card, and I will vote for you.
So he's looking at the face.
Yeah, like, he's just looking like, are you, you know, do you look good to me? Therefore, I will vote. I was like, are you interested in listening to what I'm going to? He's like, no, this is enough. You just go home and you thank your mother for your face card. And at that point, I felt, okay, maybe the end justifies the means. What matters is that I'm voted in. But I remember going back to my place and I felt so small, because
he didn't even listen to
it doesn't matter what we do as young women in these spaces. At the end of the day, there is a certain section of society that is going to view you in that way.
Now I'm imagining if you didn't have, you know, the dimple or the nice looks, what would have happened? So wouldn't I
qualify for office? You know, it's a ridiculously high standard. That and that goes to really objectifying women, in that you look at her as some sort of sexual entity before she is a human being.
And that is happening with the elite. At least you people are learned.
Yes.
So if the people who are educated and learned are saying this, what about people down?
I can only imagine. And now, and the danger about objectifying someone is that they're going to reach a point and then they self-objectify, in that as a young woman you'll say, okay, do I have a bum? Do I have a waist? Do I have a figure 8? If I do not tick all those boxes, therefore I am not worthy to be in certain spaces. If I am not beautiful, I'm not going to make it in life. And then, you know, you shrink yourself. You're not able to go out there. You're probably talented in different way. You're a smart woman, but because you don't look like that, then you will you will not flourish, and yet that should not be a factor. So I think we actually need a cleansing as a
And
society.
I think that's
yes.
really big. It's really a big challenge.
Mm.
It has really put many girls down.
Yes.
You cannot come out confidently to to say what you want to say in public.
Yeah, and that's why I'm very passionate about empowering women, and I think it's a question of like self-awareness. Of course, we all start from somewhere. You're going to start off with what is this projection of how does society project women, and then that's how you're going to view yourself. And it takes a certain sort of unlearning. You unlearn these things like, no, I'm not just my body, I'm more than that. If there's something I bring to the table, it doesn't have to be because I am woman. It's simply because I am human and I'm capable of doing these things. That's what you should consider. And then you establish your boundaries, you establish your values, in that there are certain conversations people will not have with you because of also how you carry yourself. It takes a certain level of assertiveness and being able to communicate your boundaries. Actually, I had an incident yesterday evening. We were having a discussion with like a group of friends. So I received this phone call from a gentleman, and then he's very rude and he was shouting. He's like, I called you, you did not pick up. Why don't you pick up my calls? You think... And then, so I of course, I started by being courteous, like, hello, can I help you in any way? Until I reached a point in the conversation, I realized now this is a question of actually setting your boundaries and standing up for yourself. Because as girls, sometimes we're expected to play nice. The nice girls where people find very, cordial and easy to get along, they're not going to say much. They're just going to always smile. So we were seated. I was there with like a group, the class group, and I was like, excuse me, sir, I do not like the tone with which you're speaking to me. I think you're very disrespectful, and you need to adjust that. You need to adjust the tone of your voice and the choice of your words. And if you're more respectful, we shall continue this conversation. Have a good night. And I turned off the phone call. It's a question of, you have to, like, where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line between being nice and being pleasant and letting people step on your boundaries?
Right, very important.
Yes, of course. There is also this whole narrative of when you are, when you're a woman and you know your worth, you're very defensive, you're very angry. But I don't think that should be a question. There is something that pushes women to become like that, usually through their experiences. So I think as a young woman, especially if you're trying to build a name for yourself or you're trying to grow in a certain space, you need to have that balance. You don't have to come outrightly at people all the time, but you should know when your boundaries are being stepped on and when it's important to stand up for yourself. Yes. And also respectfully.
Right on that point. How are you going to use this office? You're a young person, people have been there, and now you're a lady in chairs. So how are you going to use this office maybe to see that women and girls are empowered, and also professionally also to take on the political spaces and any other spaces in society?
My answer to that question would be, I think the starting point is sharing your story. Yes, it's important we need to have more young women out there sharing their stories and saying, this is how my journey has been, or being honest about some of the things that have scared you, some of the fears, some of the things you've had to overcome, some of the things you have had to change. So I think the more I tell my story, and when you tell your story, of course, that comes with a certain form of exposure, and we have more women that we see in certain spaces, and they're able to take them up. So also sharing my story. But even before I entered into political office, politics, I've worked with FIDA Uganda and the National Association of Women Judges on advocacy projects, advancing socioeconomic justice, ensuring there's one where we had to ensure that a young girl from Karamoja attains a dream of becoming a lawyer. She was just from Form 6 VAC. So this is also less about the office you hold, but also the influence in the community that you have. Because it took me just listening to this girl's story it took me just listening to this girl's story and knowing that, yes, I may not have the money to take her to school, but I know I have a voice and I can reach out. I could reach out to FIDA Uganda and say, hey, look at this young girl right here. There is something that we can do. Why don't we start up a campaign? And it's a domino effect. When you help that girl and she's empowered, she's also going to help the next. Yes. So I think getting involved in our communities is very important, and getting platforms where we speak. In my very first day in office, my lecturer, Dr. Tim Patricia, called me. He's like, hi, Anne, I've heard you won the election. We have to go tomorrow. I won the election the day before International Women's Day. So he told me, yeah, the stars just aligned actually for you. It had to be. It had to be. So the next day she took me together with Uganda Law Society, went to Gayaza High School, and we were in like some sort of main hall, and these girls from Gayaza High School, Form 1, Form 2, and Form 3, so they were seated in the main hall, you know, just shy, and you're interacting with them, interacting them and just sharing your story. Of course, I cannot say I haven't achieved, I still have a long way to go, but from the point that I am and where they are, they need someone to relate to. So I just shared my story and some of the challenges I've had getting into certain spaces in leadership and breaking certain stereotypes. And, you know, the girls walked afterwards, they walk up to you like, yes, there's some time I also wanted to be class prefect, but I was in a coaching group and I was the only girl there, and I felt like there is no way I could, you know, just sad stories, and you just encourage them. Because I also remember being in such a space when I was back in Namagonga, just being a Form 1, Form 2 girl, and and an old girl comes and shares experience, like, I want to be like that girl. You know, I want to be like, I want to be involved in things like that. I need to be confident, and little by little, you just take on these different responsibilities, and then cumulatively you find yourself somewhere. So I would that's what I would say in response to that.
I think that was a nice way to start off.
Yes, it was start off in high gear.
And I hope you do more of these, you know, story sharing with different girls, young girls. And you talked of, you know, advocacy, different advocacy work that you've been involved in. It's how have they impacted the lives of a young girl in the community?
Okay. Again, I will start off with the beauty of sharing your story. And also, when you go out there, it's less about how many people you impact, and it could just be one person that changes, you know, one person's life that you change. So for me, the community projects really started off in high school. I was part of, you know, those clubs that are in school. They're just charity clubs, and the one that we had was an education one, ensuring that girls who could not afford their school fees are able to come in, you know, stay in school, do the exams. So we'd bring the students on board, the teachers on board, the parents on board, and we just collect this money and ensure that at least we see the exam. And then the school would do like this sort of profiling and say, oh, remember this girl who you hope, you know, she's actually doing medicine in Makerere now. Remember this girl? And then there's a certain, your heart warms up in that, oh, I was able to contribute to that cause that enabled this girl to be in school. And then also in 2020, a group of, we had just finished our Form 6. So around that time, and of course it was COVID, and so together with my friends, we started this very young organization called Human at Heart, and our focus is mainly children, and then we do different projects at the end of the year, where this is our 4th year. This year will be our 5th year actually. So I'll be celebrating 5 years. So we've done work with Gallup initiative in the Pakatanga Child's Slum orphanage in around Makerere, where we just go and speak to the girls about menstrual health. How do they ensure that despite the challenges that they have, how do they ensure that they can thrive the best way that they can? And then also bringing partners on board, because of course we are young, we don't have the expertise. But when different organizations see a group of young people coming together for a common cause, they're able to listen in and they're able to support. So I think it's a question of, you get people, you have a common vision, and also knowing how to leverage your strengths. If you can reach out to people, how do you present your project the best way possible? So picking up this small, professionalism is a thing. I had to appreciate that. How do you draft a proper concept note with you should not have grammatical errors, so that when some CEO is looking at your concept, they're like, okay, they're organized, they know what they're talking about. So you do your research and identifying organizations that have similar objectives as yours, so that you're able to grow, and also seeking for mentorship for people in certain spaces. But because you're driven by that sense of community, that you can't thrive alone. I mentioned in the beginning, there are certain things you will not be able to do on your own. However talented you are, you need people. And you should recognize that, yes, you're an entity, you're an individual, but you exist in a community that can either bring you down or, put you up. And it also depends on how much you give out into that community. Yes.
So you do donations under the Human at Heart organization?
Yes. We do donations. Actually, it's a year-long fundraiser where we try to bring as many partners on board. In 2022, we partnered with about 14 high schools. We had St. Mary's Chitovu, we had St. Mary's Chitende, we had Gayaza High School, Nabisunsa High School, we had Ntare School, we had Mount St. Mary's College Damagunga.
Wow.
All
these are big schools.
Yeah, all these are big schools because they are just young people in these schools who are actually hungry to create a change in their communities. So we brought them on board, and we're able to organize a party, like an end-of-year party, and donations for the children with cancer, the Mulago Cancer Institute, in partnership with the Uganda Child Cancer Foundation. And the mothers were so happy, just a word of encouragement. And the mothers would share their story. I've been here for a year, but no one has come to see me. Or I've been here struggling with my child. Or you listen to the children share their story. What does it mean for a child with cancer to transition? Yes, they may be healed of the cancer, but there is a transitioning back into society. For example, it's a child who is amputated. Is society actually ready to welcome back that child? So some of the things we're addressing throughout our campaign was mental health. How can you, as a citizen, as a responsible citizen, how can you be more compassionate? For example, if you see a child who has been amputated because of such a condition, it's not their choosing. So we need to be more sensitive as a society. So that's what our campaign really was. And then last year it was, our focus group was on children with disabilities. So we did like a year-long drive once again with our partners that we got along the way. We had Rotary Club Makerere join us, and then we went to a home there in Gayaza that takes care. There's this lady, she's a Sister Lucy, and she takes care of these children who are abandoned wherever she finds them. Some are dumped at her doorstep. So you just go, you would be shocked how happy those children can be with just one evening. You've just done a drive over like just a year, and you've collected, of course it's not a lot of money, but that can really make a difference.
A smile on
yes, just
face.
putting a smile on someone's, on a child's face. Yes.
Wow. And you also mentioned about being part of the Africa in the Moot.
Oh.
Tell us also something about this. What happens here?
A friend of mine makes a joke that it's hard for you to know, and if you don't know that you can't watch Ancestors without hearing the word Moot somewhere. At least you will put it somewhere. So I've intentionally tried not to talk about it, but since you brought it up,
please tell us something about it.
So Moots are basically law students competitions. Students take part in these competitions could be on an internal level, just as law students, or it could be on a national level between different law universities in the country, or it could be on a continental level, universities all over Africa, or it could be international, in that all law schools in the world. So for Africa in the Moot, it's an organization that believes in encouraging African students in international arbitration, international commercial arbitration moot court competitions, because there's been like a challenge in that law students from African jurisdictions are not exactly properly represented. You would have a competition priding itself to be international, yet it doesn't have more than 2 African teams taking part in that competition. How can you be international while excluding a whole continent out of it? So this organization tries to ensure that African students, yes, may come from the economies may not be as supportive, but at least you give them the right mentorship, the right exposure, ensuring that people who can help are brought on board so that they have that opportunity. And I decided to volunteer with them because last year they were part of a moot court competition that I took part in 2023 in April. Yeah, I had the opportunity of representing the country in Austria, Vienna, it's the largest commercial moot in the world, in the William C.V.'s Moot, International Commercial Arbitration Moot Court Competition. And I like the support I received from Africa in the moot. They were very supportive. They are not paid. It's really purely charity. And I was like, I'd like to be a part of this. I'd like to be a part of a group of people who encourage people like me to ensure that we have the opportunity to grow in our legal careers, or if you have interest in commercial arbitration, I'm able to hold someone on the hand. Yeah.
All right. So what are your future plans?
Okay, future plans.
Yes.
That question brings fear, especially for law students, where it just seems like, so where do I go? But I would say I would really like to continue with my studies, hopefully, but our plans change. Yeah, but I'd like to be a professor someday.
Wow.
Or maybe go into legal practice and own my law firm one day, or really.
Yeah.
For now, I'm just taking it one step at a time, but at least the thing that I'm absolutely sure about is I'd like to continue with my studies and be a professor someday. Either legal, I go strictly, legal academia, or legal practice, or try to merge the two.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not bad to dream.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And so lessons to the young people as we come to the end.
Okay.
Most especially the girl child.
Okay.
Yes.
So what would be my lesson to young people? The word I would have for, I'm going to generalize as young people because I know young girls are included there, would be to put yourself out there. You need to put yourself out there. I was attending a conference one time and we had Honorable Winnie Kiza say something that has stuck with me. She said that opportunity dances with those on the dance floor.
Yeah.
You may be very talented and you're just seated in the corner, but no one will get to know. So you have to put yourself out there. It's an act of courage because usually when you put yourself out there, it's not because you're qualified, but you're just willing to try. And secondly, I would say is to be okay with making mistakes. I think we live in a culture that prioritizes perfection over learning, and most of us have an ingrained fear of failing. Yeah. So you make a mistake and you beat yourself out of that, and yet what you don't know is you're getting experience. And I think out of the things that I've grown into are some of the things that I've made the most mistakes in, but I'm just willing to get it wrong as many times so that I'm able to get it right. Yeah. Yes. So I think also extending grace to yourself to make mistakes as a young person. The people who you look up to, they came from somewhere, and you appreciate that it's, And then thirdly, I would say appreciating the integrity of your journey, knowing that your path looks different from another person. We live in a comparison culture because of social media. Like, oh, she's doing this, I'm not doing anything, without realizing that our paths are different. If you're doing the best that you can and you're putting yourself out there, you don't have to look like person A and B. Like, your journey is different timelines, different blessings along the way. And the fourth one I would say would be mentorship for me. Look out for mentorship. Be in spaces, be with people who you want to be like. it's hard for you to dream to want to be like something if you're in an environment where there is really
It's
nothing
totally
to look
different.
up to. So
Yeah.
put yourself out there, attend conferences. If they ask for volunteers, go. You know, you'll be able to grow into the person because of the exposure you have. So expose yourself as much as possible. And I would say all this takes a certain level of self-awareness. Like, know yourself as a person. What are my strengths? Like, what are those things that make me stand out? Some people are just naturally calm and reserved. And if you know you're a bubbly person, go in environments that encourage that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be my takeaway for the young people out there.
Wow. A great leader.
I hope I'm
Yes.
able to deliver. I hope I'm
Alright.
able to deliver.
Yeah. And finally, your last remarks. Maybe you send out greetings to your people.
Oh, okay. So since tomorrow is Easter, a happy Easter to all of you. Please use this time to relax and take a break. At least I'll be using it to relax and take a break as we exit Women's Month, and make the women in your life feel special, at least before the month closes.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. It has been an amazing conversation from Her Excellency. And we wish her well in her new role. And so if you want to be a leader, there are people that you have to look up to. She has said, involve yourself with the people that are doing what you want to become. Yes, I've been your host, Madreen. Thank you for watching us. Follow us on all our social media handles at Civic TV. See you. Bye.